Now to security matters, President Muhammadu Buhari has launched the National Security Strategy with a call on all Nigerians to work towards its implementation. The 7-chapter National Security Strategy 2019 spells out strategies that hope to tackle present and anticipated challenges confronting the nation.
It represents a thoughtful, strategic, and practical expression of our resolve to make Nigeria safe for development, investment, growth, and prosperity, and for everybody. I therefore call on all of you gathered here as heads of ministries, departments, and agencies to see yourselves as stakeholders and partners in the wondrous task of securing our people and to demonstrate unity of purpose in implementing this strategy.
So there have been reactions to the plan drawn by the federal government on security in the country. On one hand, the spokesperson of Afenifere, Mr. Yinka Odumaki, believes there's a need for a holistic approach to handling the issues and warned on execution of the roadmap.
We need to study this more because there's a bit of strategic thinking going to this. For instance, Air Commodore was talking, and I think that was principal with the fact that, oh, border closure is on this document. And you ask yourself, what level of thinking has gone to this before you say, oh, let's close borders? You are a consumptive economy, you consume. You close border, you are not producing. The government has admitted itself that we don't have inflation because of border closures. After inflation, what follows? You have to devalue your currency. So you weigh all these things very strategically before you take decisions on them. So we need to study this document very carefully. But what is the document saying now, like you said, about herdsmen terror? You say herdsmen and farmer clashes? No clashes. It's herdsmen terror we're dealing with Nigeria. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about kidnapping? All the real challenges going on across the country.
Meanwhile, a member of the drafting committee of the security plan, Air Commodore Darlington Abdullahi, says the plan is a revised one and has considered some of the contemporary issues which faces the nation at this moment.
That is the 2019 edition of the National Security Strategy. Has taking care of most of the challenges that we are facing at the moment, starting with Mr. President's own directive to policy direction, to the nation, as well as his focus on, how to achieve especially the 3 key objectives of his administration. That is talking about the security, corruption, and the economy. How to address them with a view to addressing other challenges as well, because they're all interrelated one way or the other.
So let's get some more views on the security strategy plan and the way forward for Nigeria. We have joining us in our Lagos studio, retired military officer and a security consultant, Colonel Yami. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Kayode.
And in Abuja, we have Mr. Adamu, who is a security expert. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So,
thank you, Kayode. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. So let's begin with you, Colonel Dari. We have the plan, the strategy, and you know what, that's for some people is half the work. The major work now is implementing this strategy, which I think will form a major part of our discussion this afternoon. So we have this. What are we to do with it? Who should have it? Who should follow through with it?
Well, thank you very much, Kayode, for having me on board here to discuss this topical issue. First, let me serve a caveat. Right. I haven't gone through this document. It's an 80-page document, but I've had the privilege of going through...
Well, the one I saw was 60 pages.
I've had the privilege of going through the contents. Right. And let me first even commend the committee that put this together. I mean, no doubt they have done a very, very good job here. It's quite comprehensive, and I just really hope that we'll be able to give it the teeth for proper implementation. Now, having said that, to me, there are 7 elements that amplify national security. Here we have to look at socio-political stability, territorial integrity, ecological balance, peace and harmony. We have to also look at moral and spiritual consensus, economic consensus, and then of course we also must look at I think the 7th one now I can really pick up. So you find out that most of these elements are inherent in this particular document. But again, I find out that the issue of border closure, is not addressed here. But of course, I can see that, or I noticed that porous border
was talked about. So which is why I'm saying we have this document. The talk about implementation, I think, is what we should be discussing now. So, which is why I ask, who should have this document? Because there's a part in that document that says it is general in content and its implementation depends on other national strategic documents, such as the National Counterterrorism Strategy, the Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy, and so on. So now that we have this strategy, how do we begin to implement it, hitting the ground running?
Right. Now, it behoves on the executive, okay? It behoves on the executive to ensure that all stakeholders, okay? For example, when you talk about borders, who mans the border? Of course, we have our custom, okay? The custom, the immigration, they have a role to play there, okay? And then when we're talking about other aspects, so as a matter of fact, to my mind, it's holistic, and that everybody, it affects everybody, and that the government should ensure that all stakeholders, especially security agencies, okay? And even far from that, like this present document did not limit itself to military strategy alone. It has, it's more human-centric, than being state-centric.
Okay. Let's bring in Mr. Damu now and get his view on implementation. We have the strategy, that's half of it. How do we implement?
Yes, the president has given the directive, as it were, asking all Nigerians to, put their hands together to assist in the implementation of that document. But beyond that, all arms of government, as it were, needs to contribute to the implementation of that strategy. We believe that the promise made by the Office of the National Security Advisor when they initiated the review, that is to change the narrative where the former one, which is the 2014 document, was more the top-bottom approach. This new approach, which has sought to establish a nexus between human security and national security, should be owned by every Nigerian. And how do you achieve that? I think the federal government needs to bring in the state governments, make sure the state assemblies, as it were, imbibe and adopt that document. And not only that, find ways to explain that document to the communities. I've gone through the document. It's a fantastic document. It's work in progress compared to what we had in 2014. But believe me, it will be a document that will gather dust if we don't work on the implementation. So first off, get the governors involved. The governors should get the state assemblies involved, adopt that document so that every Nigerian, you and I, believe that that document is our document. Currently, I have gone through the document. I haven't seen any implementation strategy within the document itself. But that is not to say that one cannot exist, because that is just a strategy. The whole national security infrastructure, as it were, should find ways to implement that strategy.
Right. Now, I would like us to focus on specifics, but that will be when we return from the break, especially because there's issues of kidnapping, banditry, and militia activities, which account for 40% of the insecurity incidents we have in the country. But we'll go on a break, and we'll also look at talks about restructuring, especially because former NBA President Mr. Olisa Agbakoba has asked the nation to put the restructuring agenda on hold, but then he gives an advice on what to do. Find out details after this break. Well, let's round off on our conversation relating to the revised security strategy 2019, which was launched by the president yesterday. And we still have with us on the program Colonel Yami, retired military officer and a security consultant, as well as Mr. Kabiru Adamu, a security expert. He joins us from our Abuja studio. But briefly, for the benefit of those who have not seen this document, let me just walk you through some of the content. Now, it talks about national values, national objectives, and there's a list of national security threats, basically. It talks about terrorism, violent extremism, armed banditry, kidnapping, and what have you. But there's this interesting part that talks about combating kidnapping, armed robbery, and militia activities, proffers a few solutions, talks about activating systems for early warning and early responses. On a final note, now we have seen some of these solutions, in quotes. We hear that there's no talk about implementation. But from what you have seen so far, are you confident that we're moving in the right way?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is cherry news, and then I just want to say that we must try as much as possible, or rather the federal government should try as much as possible to ensure full implementation of this. And of course, we must have a periodic review, you know, because the maiden one was in 2014.
So every 5 years we should have?
No. It's something that we can do yearly.
Right.
Because the kind of security challenges we are facing right now is such that it's evolving.
Okay.
I mean, so it has to be reviewed periodically, at least every year.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay. So let's get Mr. Adamu's closing thoughts. What do you think every Nigerian can do to make this a reality?
Well, I support as much as possible the objective of, enhancing, as it were, the safety of lives and property in Nigeria. And we can do that by interrogating, the processes, especially asking questions around the, effort of the government and supporting the various security agencies with information. The objectives as outlined in that document are noble. And it is ours. At the end of the day, if it's successful, it is for every Nigerian. We will feel the benefit of that. So the best we can do is to embrace it, interrogate it, and where we need to ask for improvement, we ask for improvement. All
right. I think that's a great place to leave it. But I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Kabiru Adamu, a security expert. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this afternoon. And Colonel Yami, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.